Hi, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of We Talk Tech Seniors. Today, we're talking about what we can do to prevent crime from taking place in our physical environment, as well as how to identify and handle common scams and fraud. Who better to give us advice on how to stay safe than a local police department? Today, I'm joined by three members of the new Westminster Police Department. We're also lucky to have Heather Morrison, a technology for living peer and advocate for living independently in the community. Heather is here to ask questions about how seniors and people with disabilities can increase their safety while living in the community. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. Could you please introduce yourselves and what you do?
Hello there, I'm Constable Camille Oliveira, or otherwise known as Constable Camille. I'm a 24-year member of the new Westminster Police Service, and I have the pleasure of being the Vulnerable Persons Liaison, which means I work with our street entrenched homeless. I also work with our seniors, and I work with our disability and diversity clients in the community.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amrit Hundal. I am the Crime Prevention Coordinator here at New Westminster Police. I haven't been around as long as Camille, so only about a year and a half. But my role here is at the police department is to oversee and manage all the volunteers and community programs, along with liaising community events with my colleagues and external stakeholders.
I'm Odessa, and I've actually had less time than Amrit in my role. So I'm the elder abuse support person at US, and it's a partnership between US Police and Family Services of Greater Vancouver. So I actually work for Family Services of Vancouver, but with Amrit and Cam. So that can be part of our team.
And I'm Heather Morrison, and I'm with Technology for Living. Have been since the beginning. And I live in a townhouse in Ladner. And I am fourth generation Ladnerite. In fact, my grandfather, Joe Jordan, was the first Delta Constable. And he was appointed in 1880. 1885, I think it was. Anyway, so we have been around in Ladner for a long time. He did most of his police work on a horse. He didn't have a car then. Yeah, and things have certainly changed. He and his horse would be quite horrified to find out what it is to be a policeman now. Can you tell us what conditions create crime?
So there's actually three factors, and we call it the crime triangle, and there has to be all three things for a crime to occur. The first there is that there must be a desire to commit a crime. Second is an opportunity to commit a crime, and the third is the physical target to commit a crime. So where all three of these meet, there will be a crime.
When should I call the police? How do I know the difference between a non-emergency and an emergency call?
Well, I guess that would be my department as a police officer here. So an emergency call is an obvious call to 911 in Canada. It's to report a crime in progress. If the suspect is on scene or fleeing the scene, or there is imminent threat to personal property or to yourself. This can be an assault, it can be a break-in. These are all life and death situations, and sometimes it requires the attendance of the police or fire or ambulance. A non-emergency call is one that you make to the non-emergency number, and the numbers are available in your local phone book or on your website. It means that the crime is already committed, the suspect is gone, and there is no active threat to person or properties. These can include things like vandalism, theft of car, or even a suspicious person in your neighborhood. So we ask folks to use their better judgment. And in the day of 2021, we also have online reporting as well. Most police agencies allow you to report crimes that have already occurred, in particular property-based crimes, on their local website. So just check the website of your local police agency to look for that.
Now, wouldn't Grandpa be surprised with that?
Absolutely.
Wow. I'm living in my own home in Ladner. What can I do to make my home safer?
Well, there's actually a lot of things that you can do. With technology, for example, you can have those cameras installed, and of course, you'd have to put a sign up saying, "Hey, I actually have, cameras installed." You'd have to tell, for example, staff or family or anyone that comes on property.
Sensor lights is another good one, and it also preserves energy because it's not going off all the time. But if at night somebody is going in and out of your area, it's going to be censored and the lights are going to start flickering. And as soon as they start drawing attention, it's sort of a deterrent because you're like, oh no, somebody walking by might see me flickering the lights on and off.
I have a sign on my door that says attack cat on duty. And so far, it's worked. I haven't had anybody come to the door that shouldn't be there.
That's awesome.
It's awesome.
That's awesome.
Right. Train your pets as well. Pets.
What about when I'm out and about? How do I feel safe when I'm out in the community?
So with this one, we typically try to tell everyone to be very alert and be aware of your surroundings. Try to be in pairs. If you are deciding to go out, be with a friend, an acquaintance, a neighbor, walk in well-lit areas. And if you are being followed, try to call the police. Some of the things that we try to avoid or tell people to avoid is burdening yourself with packages or even having large personal belongings. I know sometimes we like to pack larger bags only because it's convenient for us. Try to avoid that, displaying large sums of money. If you're going out and you know you're only going to need $50 and you prefer to use cash over card, keep only $50. You don't need to be carrying around more than that. And even with your credit cards, if you know you're going to be going to the grocery store, you don't need to carry around all your information with you. Try to carry or have a smaller wallet on hand. And try to avoid using areas with increased chance of assault. And I know I'm probably going to get the question of, well, how do we know there's been an assault in the area or things like that? Or if there's any break-in. Next questions. I'll answer that for you. So I can speak to New West. I know that other municipalities probably have a similar platform as well, but our crime stats actually get posted on our website. And it's sort of like a really neat crime map where it shows you what kind of crime has occurred in what neighborhood. Obviously, it's not going to give you any personal information, but it's a really good overview to understand what's going on in what area. And they do get posted, I believe, quarterly after our police board meetings happen. So you can actually find that on our website. So I think that's a really good tool.
The other thing to note is that most instances of assaults actually occur between individuals that know each other. Despite what you see on television, random acts of violence between individuals is actually fairly rare. Generally, the victim and the offender do know each other, so that's something to remember.
Ladner's pretty safe, but don't move to Ladner. There's too many people here already. I like the old days. Seniors and vulnerable people are at higher risk to be targeted. Why is that?
Unfortunately, it's stereotype, right? Because seniors are usually, as we get older, right, we are a little less limber and so forth. And so I think that people look to target seniors as sort of as part of that stereotype and that ageism, you know, sort of saying, here's someone that looks like they're weak or that they're helpless, right? The good news is that technology and in our present time, we're getting better at getting older, I guess. But unfortunately still, you know, if you are older, people look to you as sort of, okay, here's my target that will also probably less likely to say anything. So a lot of it is that ageism and that stereotype. Today's tips, you know, being vigilant can definitely show these people, actually, no, I'm not just a vulnerable senior. I'm vigilant and I've got this.
In what way are they targeted more specifically? Like, what does old people have to be careful of?
So there's actually, unfortunately, a lot of different types of scams. Camille and I are going to go over the top 10. One of the first and most important is the identity theft. So this is why we always advise people to not, first of all, carry around their social insurance number or card. I know now they don't actually physically provide you cards for this exact reason. And if you do have the card and you flip it over, it says right on the card that this is not identification, and you probably shouldn't be carrying it in your wallet. So if you have a social insurance card, please, please, please do not carry it around in your wallet. That's not what it's meant for. If you have credit cards, sign your credit cards. Do not lend them out. Shred all your secure documents. Don't share your personal information with people where it's not required. And if someone is asking you to share your personal information, question them. Ask all the questions in the world. After all, it's your information. You're allowed to ask. The second one I want to discuss is a grandparent scam. This is where you'll receive a call from your grandchild. They're either crying hysterically or they're upset, and it's a quick like, oh my God, I need help. And then somebody else takes the phone and they're like, oh, well, your grandchild is in the jail, in the hospital, they're scared, or they're stuck in Mexico and they need $5,000 or whatever amount of money it is to get back home, but they don't want you telling their parents. So if this is the case, it's always good to stop and think. I know as humans, we tend to instantly go into panic mode when it's a loved one on the other line, but be logical. Contact a friend, contact your grandchild's parents and find out, are they actually in fact in a different country, or are they in jail, or what's the actual case here? And if you feel like it's fraud, hang up. And you know what, if it's important enough, they'll call back. And then third, we have service scams. So if you are obviously using the computer, as we all do nowadays, it'll be like, oh, you'll get Microsoft Office at a lower rate. Don't try to give out your personal information. They usually try to give you viruses through these things. And then Revenue Canada, this is probably one of the biggest ones so far. They'll call you and say that the CRA has a warrant out for your arrest. And if you don't pay such and such amount, they are going to come and arrest you. I just want to say that the police will not come and arrest you. CRA does not make personal phone calls like that. That's not how it works. And then last on my list is actually phishing or brand spoofing. So with this sort of stuff, it's exactly what it sounds like. You will get emails from frauds, posing as banks or large companies. It'll be like, oh, like we're emailing you from RBC. You've been approved for a loan of $25,000 at an interest rate of 0.99%. To accept this, please click here. Typically with those sort of emails, it's pretty easy to notice if they're fraud. One, they'll either end up in your junk, or if they do end up in your inbox, there's usually in the actual email a typo, or in the body of the email, there will be a typo. So if you look hard enough, you can find something. And with these sort of situations, I always suggest to just delete right away without even looking at it, because bank won't request personal information like that. Yeah, sometimes they have deals and things like that, but they're very generic emails. And if it's important enough, just pick up the phone and contact your financial institution. And if you're not able to do that and you want a more personalized experience, just go into the branch and talk to someone. Let them know that, hey, you received this email, or have a screenshot of it ready so they know what they're dealing with as well. Because financial institutions and other organizations do have fraud departments that deal with specifically these issues, but it's always good to stay on the ball with that.
So some of the other scams that we often see as police officers that we investigate include the romance scam. And unfortunately, this is the time due to COVID, we see lots of folks that haven't had a lot of social contact and often create a profile on dating sites such as Harmony or Plenty of Fish, and engage in a friendship. And that friendship progresses to the point where the other part of that friendship approaches them for money. They're having a business proposition for you, or they have a business that's having difficulties, or they're stuck in another country and need money to pay for immigration or anything like that. eHarmony is very clear, and some of the other dating websites is that generally if somebody's on the other end and they're asking you for money, it's not advisable. And we often advise people that generally it's a scam. The key thing to remember is somebody's asking you to transfer money either through Money Mart or wire services or even Bitcoin. It generally is a scam and they're just wanting your money. I happen to hate Bitcoin scams because once you transfer your money through a Bitcoin machine, we as police officers have very little ability to trace it or to investigate to bring these people to justice, because once it goes through Bitcoin, it's gone forever. Some of the other scams are vacation flights. I know it is the time of COVID and we're all dying to go away somewhere. So when the world opens up again after we have had all our vaccinations, we anticipate that there'll be lots of holidays for sale to go to wonderful places to get those airlines up and running. If the deal seems too good to be true, it probably is. Please use reputable flight agencies or go directly to your website for WestJet or Air Canada, whatever carrier you use to book your flights. Sometimes with seniors, we have seniors that go online to look at cheaper prescription costs or generic prescriptions. And be aware that most medication in Canada, we do have universal health care in Canada, and we don't want individuals buying prescriptions from outside sources, especially those across Canada and across the border into the States. The websites are not pharmaceutically reliable, and we don't want anybody to get sick. The other one that we've seen recently is the cold calling, the spoofing of the CRA, but we just had one happen this week where we had the spoofing of our police department, where our call display came up as New West Police and individuals were asked for information. So be aware, do your due diligence. And the last one that I have is that I get them all the time, is can you hear me scam, where somebody calls and you pick up and there's nobody there and you say, can you hear me? It's individuals trying to record your voice so they can get voice verified identification from you. And they're hoping to get you to say yes to authorized charges on your credit card. It's just important to always be aware of your personal information, the things that you do online. And if it just doesn't feel right, it probably isn't.
There's so many varieties of scams and frauds. It's really quite scary. Is there any other tips that you might have that could protect us, that we could feel safer?
One of the most important tips to check the non-emergency website of your local police agency, whether it be New West Police or your RCMP, whatever detachment you may be working with, wherever you live. The other part is to maybe visit the webpage for the Better Business Bureau. The Better Business Bureau of Canada is very, very clear on what scams are out there and irreputable businesses that don't have a good reputation of dealing with customers.
Thank you, constables. That was really helpful. Yeah, it is scary, and I'm feeling a little better. Mainly not to tell them anything. What if it is a legitimate call and I hang up suddenly? Is that going to get me in any kind of trouble with the CRA or any bank or anything?
The CRA is very, very clear that they will only communicate individuals with very traditional forms of communications, and that is generally good old-fashioned snail mail. They will deal with you by mail, other than you filing your taxes online.
And I can speak to the financial institution piece. If they are contacting you, they will never ask you for your personal information over the phone. Typically how it works is they'll ask you to punch in your passcode or your debit card number key it into your phone. They will never ask you to verbally say it out loud. And if it is a phone call, most of the time you'll notice that there's just sales calls, or if it's during RSP season, they're trying to tell you to top up your RSPs or things like that. But if it's an actual important phone call, they will either call you back or they will find another way to get a hold of you. I just think of it that way. So I would try not to stress and urge you to hang up if you are feeling uncomfortable.
And your financial institution will always recommend you come in if you're concerned. Better to have that face-to-face conversation because we're dealing with your money, right?
Or lack of.
Or lack thereof, exactly.
Yeah. My grandfather would be proud of you ladies. You did a great job.
Well, I just want to ride a horse for a living. Yeah. I wish we could turn back the clock. We wanted to thank you for having us today. This is our first venture doing a virtual interview. It's always a learning curve for us. And with COVID, we've been able to try new and different things in our role. And we love doing it. We've become the dynamic trio here.
So thank you very much for joining us, and thank you to the New Westminster Police Department for partnering with us on this information session. And of course, thank you, Heather, for your participation. You're an excellent interviewer. If anyone has any more questions, there will be links to the resources that the New Westminster Police Department has mentioned in the description. You can email us seniors@technologyforliving.org. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you for the next episode of We Talk Tech Seniors.